Hi there, I'm Andy and welcome to my channel about crypto. In this video I want to talk about Bitcoin and more specifically what I expect in terms of price action over the next few weeks and months, essentially the rest of 2022 and early 2023. As always, if you like those videos, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also if you would like to learn more about crypto, please check out my course Crypto Like a Pro. You can find the link in the description. So it's been a while since I've done one of those market commentary videos, and partially I haven't been making many of them because, well, over the last couple of months, Bitcoin hasn't really been doing anything particularly exciting. If we look at this period from the big crash we had in mid-June, well, the price has been bouncing. If we take out of the equation some of the absolute peaks and bottoms, well, essentially the price has been bouncing between roughly 18,000 and approximately 24,000. But in fact, most of this time, especially over the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks, it's been largely between roughly 20,000 and 18,000. So pretty much just flatlining. So on one hand, there isn't really that much to talk about, right? The price hasn't really changed much. You could potentially trade those moves up and down if you wish to do so, especially if you want to trade options and stuff like that. But for the most part, there's nothing particularly exciting, especially if we compare it to much bigger price movements we had earlier in this year, or in general, the kind of price movements crypto is known for. However, I think there is something really interesting about this point in where we are at this point in time and this price movement or lack of thereof. Because this sort of price action, this pretty much just flat move sideways, cannot go on forever. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the TTM squeeze indicator, this indicator you can see right here, you can see this long row of red dots. And you can imagine essentially this indicator as a spring. When those dots turn from green to yellow to orange and then to red, it indicates that, well, essentially it's like a really coiled up spring, right? And that spring eventually has to go. What this indicator doesn't tell us is whether it will, well, it essentially doesn't tell us which direction it will go. So we don't know whether the price will go up or down, but we know that those dots cannot stay red forever. And essentially, the longer they stay red, the more likely it is that eventually we'll have some sort of explosive move in either direction. So that's one indicator that would suggest that something's about to happen. Another thing which is really interesting is that we can draw quite a lot of comparisons between where we are now in this market cycle to where we were back in 2017-2018 market cycle. Maybe you've seen video by Benjamin Cowen. I posted it in my Discord, I think last week. Benjamin only posted it last week, in fact, exactly 7 days ago. And it's a really good video about, well, what are the chances of Bitcoin capitulating? And he's talking about some of those similarities to where we are now and where we were in 2017. And if we go back to 2017, 2018, let me get both of those on the screen. As you can see, back in 2017, we also had, it was 2018, after the 2017 market peak. We had also this long phase right here when Bitcoin was going sideways. If we go back to that time and zoom in on it, of course, the rest of the price movement was quite different, but you can see something similar happening here, essentially from early September all the way to mid-November, which oddly enough, it's pretty much the time frame we are in right now. The price was going largely sideways, and then there was a period of time when it was literally just going sideways, very, very little up or down movement. And as you can see here, if you look at the TTM squeeze during that period of time, it was showing very little amplitude, but long row of red and orange dots. Again, something was about to happen. And then those dots started loading red again, and then we had this drop. This drop was close to 50%. Bitcoin crashed from approximately just over $6,000 down to, if we even just look at this first drop here, that was down to $4,000. But then eventually it bottomed out around, well, just over 3,000. So yeah, that's exactly 50% drop. So it wouldn't be unreasonable to speculate that something similar may happen now. If you watch Benjamin's video, there are quite a few other indicators that would suggest, or quite a few more similarities to this market cycle, and essentially similarities that would indicate that we can expect some sort of a drop. Of course, it doesn't have to be a 50% drop. If anything, as the market cycles are getting less and less volatile, it would be reasonable to expect that this drop will be somewhat smaller, maybe 30%, maybe 40%, but still something very, very significant from the current price. So that's one thing that's worth taking into consideration. However, on the other hand, we can look at a slightly different scenario. Although, to be perfectly honest, I think both scenarios may combine, but I'll talk about it in a moment. We are getting very close to the midterms in the US. And if you look at S&P 500, and yes, I appreciate this is not crypto, but stocks and crypto are quite closely related in terms of price action. And what I wanted to show you here is that whenever there were midterms in the past, there was some sort of a bottom in October. Especially these three here are quite significant. And then more importantly, every single time we had some sort of a rally in November and December. And if we look at S&P, well, it did actually bottom out very recently in mid-October. It seems like it's on a bit of an uptick. I don't know whether that was indeed the bottom or whether there will be another pullback. I think there's pretty good chance that this was the bottom. So there is pretty good chance that we may be somewhere here, right, in comparison to those previous market cycles. And then from that point onwards, well, like as you can see, in every single case, it was a move up. Of course, quite a bumpy move up in most cases, but move up nonetheless. So if we'll see some sort of a rally from S&P over the next 2 months, essentially November and December, it's quite likely that when S&P rallies, we'll probably also see Bitcoin, maybe to a lesser degree other cryptocurrencies rallying as well. Which of course then goes exactly against of what I was just saying in that first scenario, that essentially this sideways movement would end in capitulation. So the way I see it, one possibility is that we may see some sort of capitulation from Bitcoin first and then a rally. The other option is that if S&P rallies indeed in the next couple of months or over the next couple of months, we may see some sort of a move up from Bitcoin and then a crash, proper bottom out, and then move up. Whatever will happen, I expect that end of this year may be quite volatile. Certainly for the stocks. I'm not entirely sure how Bitcoin will react to it, but I'm very confident that we'll see more volatility than what we've seen over the last few weeks, because there's been literally nothing happening. And then personally, if I was to speculate what is likely to happen, I think we will see a move up for the stocks at least. I think it's somewhat unlikely that Bitcoin will bottom out first, maybe, but I think that would be rather surprising. So I think Bitcoin will probably follow and we will see some sort of a move up. And then in early 2023, there will be a market crash, there will be a significant pullback, and then a slow grind back up throughout the most of 2023 and early 2024. And then, of course, that aligns with the next Bitcoin halving and so on, and hopefully then on the prices should start going back up. In the event that Bitcoin does indeed crash, whether that's soon or whether that's in early 2023, that's not necessarily all bad news, because if we look back at 2017 or 2018 again, I mean, yes, we had this big crash, and actually from the moment we had the biggest part of the movement, so that would be this move here, that was what, 20th of November, to this big green candle here, 2nd of April. Well, that's over 4 months, 4.5 months, give or take. So if we see something like this, if it does play out in a similar way, this is going to be a really, really nasty period. I mean, to be honest, most people are probably not very happy if they're already quite significantly exposed to crypto, because it's been quite rough few months. But if something like this happens, a lot of people will give up on it. But then look at what happened afterwards. Again, that was in slightly different market conditions than we have currently. But nonetheless, from this period here, if we look at an average price, let's say somewhere here to this peak, that was almost 3x in a space of another 3 months after that, from like 2nd of April to this peak here, 26th of June. So 2.5 months or so, a little bit more. And Bitcoin almost tripled in price. Of course, there is no guarantee that we'll see similar market movement, but whenever we see a crash like this, well, it will fuel the next bull run whenever it will happen. Or even if it's not a proper full-on bull run, it may still fuel a temporary run up. Because then we still, actually after that move up, we were back in a downtrend for quite a while. Then we started going up. Then, of course, COVID happened. And then from that point onwards, well, that first phase may not look quite impressive here, but if we get rid of the massive peak, well, actually it was quite a pronounced, quick move up. And then, of course, a massive parabolic rally. So it's also something worth remembering that even when this happens, and it does suck when it happens, well, it creates opportunities. And even if it doesn't play out exactly the same way, well, there should be easily, whenever Bitcoin crashes significantly, there should be an upcoming, like, quite easy, hopefully 2x from that point onwards. And then, of course, eventually it will start going up even more in value. So yeah, these are just my thoughts about the current state of the market. I think that something is definitely about to happen. Whether we will go up and down or down, it's not very clear at this point in time. Personally, I think Bitcoin will follow stocks, so I think it's more likely that it will actually go up rather than down, even though the price action would indicate similarities to 2018, and that would imply that move down is more likely. But personally, I think we'll more likely go up, and then there will be a crash in early 2023, but let's see how it will play out. As always, please leave a comments if you have any comments or suggestions. And otherwise, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.